Good evening, everybody. It is so great to actually be back here in person for one of our MBA executive speaker events. It's been a year and a half or plus since we've been back in the room. I think we did have one in March, in February, right before things shut down. That was February of 20. So it is fantastic to be back here. My name is Kimberly Hollister. I am the Dean of the Feliciano School of Business and also at the moment acting provost for the university. So we have, it's really appropriate that we have such a special guest tonight. Irv Dennis, who is a great friend to the business school and the university, an alum, a supporter. So we're really happy and grateful that you're here tonight, Irv. So as many of you might know, Irv spent almost 4 decades with Ernst Young before retiring as global client service partner. And he was then recruited to an interesting opportunity down in Washington, D.C. to serve as the chief financial officer for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And at HUD, Irv worked to reform and to modernize the agency and its financial performance and was the recipient of several awards for his work there. What you might not know, and is a recent development, is that Irv is also an author. And his book, Transforming a Federal Agency, Management Lessons from HUD's Financial Reconstruction, is about to be released. We look forward to getting a preview tonight, along with Irv's account of his remarkable career and the path that he took both before and during his time at HUD. So the way the event will go tonight is Irv is going to start with a presentation and highlighting some of his journey. Then we're going to have some questions and answers and exchange with Senior Associate Dean Ron Strauss. And as always, we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for your questions. So again, really grateful to have Irv with us here tonight. And at this point, I will turn it over to Irv.
The budgetary process is very fun. It's complicated. It's a 2-year cycle between you start and finish. And Congress is very complicated to navigate that. That was a tremendous learning. The grant money that goes out from government into the people of to where the money gets to where it's needs is a very complicated process. It's part of lawmaking. It's part of oversight. It's part of getting the grantees to file for the funds. Again, that's a neat avenue if people have an interest in learning the whole grant making process. Lots of opportunities inside of government for that. Let me just take a pause there and see if there are any questions. And please don't be bashful. No question is from left field. If it's a question that offends me, you'll never know it. I'll just give you a different answer.
We have some questions already submitted. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, perfect.
So the way we're set up, we have some questions that have been submitted already, and then we'll also have an opportunity for students to add. You want to do this now?
Yeah, perfect. Sure.
I was just thinking before I didn't know I was going to do the questions right now, but listening to you and looking at everybody here, what comes to mind is possibilities. Just before I ask the questions, Irv is a graduate of Montclair State, a kid, if you don't mind me saying that, a kid who grew up in a small town in Jersey, with first kid in the family to go to college. Maybe this is a story that some of you can relate to. And these are the possibilities. Look what's happened step by step over the last 40 years. And I guess right at the beginning, I would just say, I hope for one or more of you, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, that you're in that chair and you have your story, and that we've been part of your development, and that this conversation and meeting Irv Dennis in person and listening to the possibilities will touch you in a way to really move you to understand with effort and with all the attributes that Irv's talking about, what your possibilities are. That's our hope. So that's just a little commentary. So I've got some questions we've chosen, and there'll be more. From a leadership perspective, what were the biggest surprises in the way a major federal agency was run compared to a Big Four accounting firm?
Yeah, it's a great question, and one I do write about in my book. And I wouldn't say limited to the Big Four accounting firms. I'd say private sector in general. In government, you've got two levels of staff. You have careers and you have the politicals. And the politicals change with administration every 4 or 8 years. And that's a lot of change. The careers run operations, the political run the business and run policy, if you think of it that simply. In the private sector, think of the politicals running as the board, the C-suite, the top level of management. That never gets wiped out all at one time. So you have a consistent, if you have a CEO leave, you have a board member leave, maybe even a couple at a time, but you still have that infrastructure of strategy, the culture, and the mission and the vision forward. In government, politicals come in, all that is wiped out. The strategy, the president's management's agenda, which is developed with each president, goes away, and the new president brings in a new agenda. And that is very, very disruptive, very difficult to manage, and you've got a very short amount of time to implement it. So that is the biggest difference from a culture and a management standpoint.
I mean, that's a huge difference. Thanks. A little more personal. What has been a defining moment in your career that catalyzed your professional growth?
Multiple, but the number one was, quite frankly, graduating from Montclair. I do not underestimate the significance of that. Nothing happens without a degree in the professional life, and I mean that in all sincerity. I love my education here. It meant everything to me, and it's the foundation of which my career was built. Now, once you have that, it's up to you to do what you do with it, but you have every opportunity to you. Don't be intimidated by your credentials to anybody, to any school. You've got a great education here, and I would just suggest you use it wisely. That is the catalyst that got me started.
Thank you. Could you please expand on the financial and digital transformation that you led at HUD that led to the first unqualified audit opinion in 8 years? I mean, that's a tremendous achievement.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. That is, I would say that was not an easy task. And that's what my book is written about. How do you change a federal agency? Actually, I have a slide I could talk about that real quickly. Thank you for asking that. This is the transformation framework that I put in place, and it all starts with leadership. When I got there, the CFO shop and HUD at large did not have any sort of leadership in a cohesive environment. HUD has 10 different programs. They got FHA and Ginnie Mae, and they're all operating independently. So we did not have the right leadership or governance structure around that. So first thing I had to do was build my credibility and put a plan in place and get people bought in. So I was able to bring that. I was able to demonstrate leadership skills and create the vision and get people thinking about it. And the governance structure to get HUD working together through the programs with all towards one mission was really important. And once we got that, I put a detailed transformation plan in place, understanding what the issues were in the material weaknesses, the 10 material weaknesses and the 4 disclaimers. They all meant different things. Some were more important than others. So we dissected that, understood what we could do, what we couldn't do, and we put a detailed plan in place. And I used my team to help me build that out. I needed them to buy into this. And once we demonstrated what you can do, they got excited about it. As far as the intelligent automation and digital transformation, that wasn't a concept that was really thought of at HUD. So trying to educate them on what that means was really important. And so you can do that in a very simple way. We're never going to change the whole IT systems out, which maybe needs to be done because these systems are old, antiquated. They're 40 years old, still running on COBOL. That's $1 billion effort, which isn't going to happen in 3 years, nor will you get the money from Congress. But you can put cheaper technology on top of it. And take a lot of the routine processes that people were doing or machines are doing and convert it to an automated process. And we have a lot of people pushing numbers around, moving numbers from one Excel spreadsheet to another, all things that a machine can do. And we took a very simple process in the financial statement close process and accrual process that was 2,700 hours, took 6 months to do. I said, let's just do this one simple thing. I brought in contractors, put it in RPA, brought that down to 70 hours in 2 weeks. And as soon as we did that, the team's eyes lit up. I mean, we don't have to be pushing numbers around anymore. And it wasn't about eliminating jobs. I was very clear on that. I needed people to stay, but I wanted them to work smarter and create more value in what they do. I'd rather them analyzing numbers and pushing numbers around. And once they saw that, they came back with a list of 100 different projects that we could replicate with a machine and get rid of the routine processes that they were doing. It was very, very successful. That had generated a lot of excitement, and not only within the CFO shop, but out at the programs too. And when I say there's a lot of paperwork and stuff that's done on the back of an envelope, I am not kidding. I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit to fix inside of government.
It was very interesting. Listening to you, it sounds like that job as CFO of HUD was really operational leadership. And I hope you don't mind me saying this, but when I think of a partner in an accounting firm, 37 years, you think of partners as a little detached from the operations of things, looking at the financial statements, but yet you were able to do this.
Yeah, it's a good question. Auditing is hard, and it's hard for people to really understand what it is. I could, unless you're in the audit profession and signing off on financial statements, it's hard to really comprehend. And when you think of an auditor's responsibilities, you start off understanding where the risks are at a company, and you start off by what is the governance of a company? Like, how does the board set strategy? How do they interact with senior management? And how does management govern their folks? So governance is very important when you think of the audit process. Auditors need to understand internal controls, and you need to understand internal controls. You need to understand processes around revenue, processes around payroll, process around manufacturing, all critical processes. Auditors get a lot of very strong knowledge of that. You also need to understand operations. And most auditors, and me included, spent a lot of time just walking around the world at a company like McDonald's, which has operations in 150 countries. You visit a lot of those countries, you really understand the operations. You understand how efficiency plays within running a private sector, especially on the IT side. And the private sector has been at this digital transformation for maybe 6 or 7 years. So it's kind of the back end. And even the audit profession is doing a lot of data analytics stuff. So all that is just accumulated in your mind. And if you can walk in and have a vision, you really do get a good sense of an operation at large. And that's, I was more prepared than I thought I was going to be. And CFOs today, by the way, it's not like the CFO of 20 years ago when, they were basically bean counters, making sure the numbers rolled up properly. Today, a CFO's responsibility is to be a business partner to the CEO, and it's probably the second most important job in companies. And the reason being is CFO has the full breadth of a process, from beginning to end. They have the strategy, and the CFO is much more operationally minded today than they were 20 years ago. So the whole accounting finance side of it is really, really important. And as I was mentioned earlier to a class, I love the accounting profession for this simple reason. It's the common language of business. If you can understand accounting, understand how the theory of it, and it can analyze numbers, you can do a lot of different things with that in the financial world and running an operation, being an analyst almost anywhere. So it's a very, very important degree to have.
That's great. I got 2 more here, and then we'll open it up, and
Perfect.
I got some more. But first, something comes to mind, which you probably haven't been asked, but you mentioned McDonald's twice. And so I'm just curious, if you don't mind, and maybe you haven't been in one in a while, but what's your favorite item on the menu?
Well, I'm if I'm I always say, I don't want to be crude with this, but if I'm dying tomorrow, I'm having a Big Mac tonight. I try to eat as healthy as I can, but I love the Big Macs. But when I do go there, I like the Egg McMuffins. But the interesting thing with McDonald's is one thing I loved about going to the different countries, their menus are very different in each country, and they're very tailored towards the culture of the country. And McDonald's did a good job. They didn't put the arrogance of the America's culture into these countries. They adopted their culture from a menu standpoint. Now, there's a few items that are consistent, the Coke products and fries and stuff, but it was fascinating going to Netherlands and eating this delicious salad, with tomatoes and mozzarella cheese. It was great. And you go over to Japan and you get a shrimp burger type thing. It's really, and I tried them all when I traveled. That's why I get up at 4:30 and exercise, so I didn't gain weight.
It reminds me, this is not a question for you, but it's a great interview question that I use sometimes, or have used to students or to prospective employees, which is if you could be any part of the Big Mac, what part would you be, and why? And so that's a great question to learn about. Somebody just keep that in the back of your mind. You don't have to answer.
My answer to that would be the inventor.
These are two more, and then we'll open it up. How were you? This is a very thoughtful question from one of our students. How were you able to differentiate yourself from the rest of your colleagues during the course of your career to reach the heights that you were able to reach?
That's an interesting question and a good question. I never worried about that. I did what I could do and the best that I could do it, and let the chips fall where they may. I never got caught up in politics of the EY. I never got caught up in being competitive with my peers. I was always, and the big four, they were there to support each other. But quite honestly, do what you do the best you can, and good things will happen. My view, if I started getting caught up with what my peers doing, your mind goes where it doesn't need to go. It's a distraction. Everyone's created differently. Some peers are better, some peers are worse, and it didn't matter to me what they were. They're people I wanted to get along with and needed and support, and just almost like golf. You do what you do with a golf ball, and your competitors are going to do what they do, and the end result's the end result. And just don't be discouraged by it, and don't feel jealous by it. And if you win, don't gloat about it. Just be happy where it is. So it's a great question.
I thought it was a great question. And the last one, I have some others, but we'll open it up. Can you describe a career mistake or disappointment that provided you with a big learning opportunity?
Someone asked that question to me in different ways, like, what failures do I have? I, honest to goodness, do not think of failures. I'm sure if I thought hard enough, I could come up with some examples, but I'm a big believer in whatever's in front of you, deal with. It's maybe off a different path, or hopefully it's not, but if it is, you fix it and move forward. I do not think of the world in mistakes or failure. I'm afraid to fail, so that's why I work so hard and trying not to. I'm sure I can come up with some examples if I thought hard enough. I maybe gave a client some bad advice that we had to turn around, but I don't dwell on that stuff. I don't think about it. I focus on what's in front of me and take what I've learned from the past and just keep going with it. So I do not focus on failures, but I'm good to learn from them, I'm sure, because that's what I do. But I don't think about failures or mistakes.
You want to take from the floor? We have a couple of other prepared ones. There's a hand.
That's a great question. And we talked about that earlier. I probably didn't really focus on becoming a partner till I was midway through my senior manager years, staff, senior manager, and partner. And I just wanted to get to the next level. Now, when I started, just like when I started Montclair, I started scared. When I started with EY, I started scared. I couldn't think about partnership because that was very untouchable to me. But what was in front of me was being the best staff that I could be to become a senior. And then once I got to the senior, what became important was becoming a manager. So I took it in those increments. And I still hadn't committed to partner until about halfway through senior manager. I was feeling the confidence of it. I could see it. I was working with partners that I said, geez, I can do that. And there's partners working with partners that said, geez, I think I could do that better. I had mentoring partners I still continued to aspire to. But if I had to guess where I was 5 years out every year in my career, I would have been wrong. So I always think of it as a 5-year cycle. Keep 5 years in front of you, what you're trying to goal, what you're trying to think about, and then focus on that. But I also say, and I think I might have done a speech here at some point, at your age, I would think about a bigger picture. Like what story do you want to tell when you're 60 years old? And make life decisions, the big decisions on that. In another way, don't do anything crazy in your life that's you're going to be embarrassed by. But as far as a career point, I kept a 5-year horizon that was helpful to me, and then didn't get too far ahead of myself. Yeah. You're too kind, but thank you. Yeah.
Oh, is it even on? It's on. Oh. So in terms of just getting your foot in the door, I believe is just really hard for us in general. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure we apply to places like, even if I applied to Ernst & Young, my application will probably go in the clouds. So how do we get in the door? That's more so a question for us, because obviously, you're not going to start off as a manager or more so like that. But and with this generation, competition is really, really high in terms of just getting a job entry level. And then even entry level, they want you to have like 7 years of experience. I mean, I saw something on LinkedIn and it was like, oh, in order to be something as simple as like a customer service representative, they want you to have 5 years of customer. Like, what is that for a 22-year-old? Where was they 5 years ago in high school? So, I mean, how do you set yourself different and get your foot in the door to these big companies that'll set the opportunities for you?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and you hear that a lot. It probably wasn't a lot different when I was sitting in your shoes. I mean, Montclair had I went into the accounting internship program, which helped me get my start. There's schools offer career counseling, network in different ways. You'd be surprised how careers happen. And whatever you're doing today, do it well. And if maybe you're working at something that's not in your career, you never know who you're going to run into that can help. So be very conscious of that. Keep your record clean, and just be persistent. I don't have a magic answer for that. Make sure your resume is the best that it can be, written well, no mistakes. I guess in this digital age where data extraction is how they read resumes, no one manually reads resumes anymore. Make sure you have the right buzzwords in there. In fact, they're probably the only thing that really matters on a resume anymore is to make sure you have and be responsive when you get a call them back and visit, follow up with kind of the old fashioned way, follow up with letters or emails of thankfulness. And networking is important, and I'm sure the school has lots of networking opportunities and if getting your foot in the door may not be your dream job in that company, but once you get in, my son started at JP Morgan in a position he probably didn't prefer to start in, but once he got in, he proved himself and launched his career. I realize it's difficult. I get confused with, I like personal face-to-face interaction because I'm just old school with that. I think that is a little bit lost in today's hiring process. Zoom is now, I guess, will be very important, and COVID's proven the success of that. But just use every avenue the colleges have for you, career fairs, networking, and something will work out. I know it can seem discouraging. My son, took him a while to find the job, But once he did, he launched himself and he's in a great spot right now. Yeah. Other questions?
I have one or two more.
Sure.
We'll come back and hopefully you get two.
Right.
This is a follow-up to my first question. Obviously, you stayed for the long haul, but was there ever a point in your EY career that you almost left, and what made you stay?
Yes, there actually was a point that I did leave. I was public accounting at the time, and it may still be. It was hard work, and it was 10 hours, 12 hours, 7 days a week, and that was just what the expectation was if you wanted to do really well in the profession. It's different today, but that's what it was in the 80s. And I ran into my wife, God bless her, has been very supportive of my career. We were married 39 years on Saturday. And a lot of my career success is because she supported me in many ways. One, raising the family. There was a lot of tension in my working and the home life. So I left. I went to Dow Jones for 4 months. And this is at a time where boomerangs weren't popular. Once you left the profession, you left. But the firm told me, if you get bored over there, and we think you will, come back. And so 4 months, I was bored out of my skull. I was miserable at home. My wife saw it. So we worked out a deal that I'd go back to EY, but I'd be home every night. I'd be home every Friday night for dinner. And we still do date nights today on Friday nights. And I would not work Sundays. Now, I didn't honor all the Sundays, but I curtailed my Sunday work quite a bit. And so I went back to EY, and I just loved the profession, and there wasn't a day I didn't enjoy it. But you got to keep it all in balance. And so we worked out a deal. So I did leave and go back, and glad I went back.
Maybe the last question, unless somebody else has. Earlier today, when we were just kind of catching up, because we haven't talked about what it was like to be an insider in Washington.
Yeah.
And you were an insider. I mean, you were a senior member of the administration, access to certain parts of the White House, certain parts of the Capitol. Maybe just share a little about what that was like, and maybe it'll touch somebody to try someday.
Thank you for raising that. I actually write a chapter in my book about the fun part of the job. And again, I thought it was all fun, but the unique part. And again, I put this in a category of things I never would have imagined sitting in your shoes doing. But I had the opportunity I had to testify in front of Congress a couple of times. And that's a very unique experience. And it was a little bit intimidating, but it was fun. I got to ride on Air Force One with the president and Secretary Carson. That was a phenomenal experience. I was able to go out to Camp David and do a strategy session, enjoy all the facilities at Camp David. The only bad part with Camp David, not dissimilar to Air Force One, I guess, is they confiscate your camera, so you can't take pictures at Camp David. I was able to sneak a couple in on Air Force One, but not at Camp David. My wife would say the White House Christmas party was one of her favorites. That's, and at the West Wing, but even the business side of it, you spending a lot of time in the West Wing in the Situation Room over stuff. And it was just really cool. I mean, there's a lot of very historical buildings, and you really see how our country was formed, and the history is there. So again, you can do a lot of really cool stuff that I never imagined 4 years ago that I'd ever do. And,
Irv, thank you for coming back to
my
Montclair
pleasure.
State. Thank you.
We would like to thank you again, Irv, for being our speaker tonight, and to our Senior Associate Dean, Dr. Ron Strauss, for conducting the interview. I think we all took away a lot of good advice as we move forward in all of our careers. And in appreciation for speaking tonight, we have a small token here for you. And it says, in recognition and appreciation for his support of the MBA program, we present this award to you.
Thank you.
It's a little token.
Thank you very much. I'll finish with one thought that I tell young folks all the time. I'm jealous of you folks. I'm near the end of my runway, and you're just getting launched. And I'm very sincere when I say that our future's in good hands with you folks. And I'm excited for you. I wish I was in your shoes getting started, not even knowing where I was going. Again, I wouldn't change anything I did, so I can't change time, but You folks got a lot of fun stuff in front of you, and you're gonna knock it out of the park. So good luck
Great.
to you all, and thanks for coming and listening.
Thank you. And as you've noticed, some students are making their way to class, but the MBA students with 7 o'clock classes, please stay. Your professors know you're here and you get a chance to ask some more intimate questions. And please mark your calendars for November 15th. This is a plug for our next event. Greg Collins will be here. He's also an alumnus. He's the foundation chair and he worked in sports and entertainment and he will be our speaker. So mark your calendars for November 15th. MBA students, please move to the front and there are mics around here so you can ask more questions.
That was great.
That was good. Thank you. Yeah. It's fun to discuss. Yeah. Thank you for the questions. They were good.
Yeah, that makes it work.
Yeah, it's fun. Exactly.
I hope the Big Mac question was. You got to have a little.
Yeah.
A little. Are there other questions in the room? This is the time for our MBA students. You even can say your name, so it'll give it a little more kind of personality, right? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. My name is Trevor. My question is, you seem to be a person that just really likes to work.
Really what?
I said you seem to be a person that really just likes to work. Do you think it's important for people going into specific industries to understand who they are and how they like to work and kind of try to match that with their aspirations professionally?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think, first of all, you know, if I could pick a career that I would really love, it'd be maybe playing golf, but it's not my skill set. That would be, I would not have been able to make a living at that. I think you understand your skill set, and within your skill sets, find your passion. And if you're doing something you really like within your skill set, work is easy. I mean, and you're right, I love working. I love keeping myself busy. I love learning, but because I like what I was doing. So it's a great question. And again, I just say it very simply, understand your skill set and find a career that fits into that skill set, and you'll be very successful with it. The idea is to find a job that doesn't feel like a job, right? You know, I retired because I had to, not because I wanted to. It was a mandatory retirement age. Yeah.
Other questions, anything? Please come up to the microphone.
Hi, I just had a question. How did you know when was the right time to leave EY? When you know you put everything in and it's time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you sign your partnership form in your young 30s, they tell you when you're going to retire. It's it's mandatory. And now people always ask, you know, does that make sense to an organization? You know, all big four firms have a mandatory retirement age of 60 as a partner. I like that model because you're aware of it. You can plan for it. You know, the firm makes sure you're financially okay. And it also gives you a second opportunity at something. And a lot of partners, you know, they may go golf, enjoy, get a house on the beach and do that, which is perfectly fine. Some go into the academic world, some start another career. My goal was to do meaningful work and give back in some way, and that was going to be through academics. I just happened to have an opportunity to go into government and work in the administration, which I found fascinating. So it's a planned departure. Or, you know, I don't know when I would have quit if I didn't have to. It's an unknowable question at this point, but I probably would still be there. And I would have missed an opportunity of a lifetime working at the government. Yeah. Yeah.
Other questions? not a good time to be shy. Please.
Yeah.
come.
You start your career life as an intern, like the intern, and is that a best way or an easy way to get into the big company as an intern first and then turn to the full-time?
Yes, it's a fabulous way to get started. If the colleges offer internship programs, do that. If not, try to find summer internships with companies, and it's a fabulous way to get started. One that builds your resume for other companies to see, and companies use internships to evaluate people. And if you do a great job, it's very seldom you don't get a job offer. So if you can push internships, if you have an opportunity to internship, by all means do it. And again, it may not be the perfect job. It could be, it could be working in a mailroom of a big company, but if that's what the internship is, just go do it and get yourself started. Yeah, you're welcome.
Other questions? Otherwise, we will,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, don't be shy. I could do this all night long.
Curious to understand, you mentioned that you didn't really get caught up too much in the politics. Like, me being in the corporate world, I kind of see it as inevitable. So like, what were some of your tactics you used to, I guess, go through the politics to fight for, especially if you have, like, for yourself being very hardworking, and doing well at what you did. I'm sure you had other colleagues who did the same. So of course that could create some tension of some sort. Like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so of course, there's going to be politics and the peer pressure of any situation, but my goal was just not to get caught up in it. And I had peers that got on assignments that I wish I had, and I know I got on assignments that some of my peers wish they had done. So large corporations, there's room, and Big Four is an easy one because if you do what's expected of you all through the ranks, you'll find your way to partnership. Now, it's not easy. Part of the criteria to becoming partner is business development. And as an accountant, we're not great business, or at least I wasn't a good business developer. It's not our skill. I always said if I was going to go into business development, I'd go into sales, right? But I use my accounting skills. But so if it's a pyramid approach in the Big Four. For every so many that start, only very few make partner. But people fall off for different reasons. Either they don't like the work, they don't like the hours, they can't keep up with the skills. But in the consulting world, if you do what's expected of you and you meet the job description throughout the ranks, you'll find your way to where you want to be. But it's, there's always going to be a little bit of tension with that, but I would really encourage you, just don't get caught up in it. It's a distraction that I didn't need or want in my mind. I was happy with what I did and how I was doing it, and that's what was important to me. Yeah.
One more.
Right. All right, very good.
Lifestyle. You said to find what you're passionate about, and I think that's difficult for a lot of people. So obviously, given the amount of things that you do besides just working for EY, it's not a what for you. So if I were to ask how you maintain or remind yourself that you're passionate, is that a who or a how? Like, what is it exactly that you are passionate about? Is that you're passionate about how you do your work, or are you passionate about the people you do your work for, or is it something else?
Yeah, what motivates me is really the question, I guess. I was really motivated by trying to, economics never motivated me. It was, I wanted to do something different than what my family was thinking was going to be. I wasn't pushed into college. My parents would have been happy for me not to go. That doesn't mean they were sad that I went. It's just that it wasn't how we were brought up. And I just wanted to excel at what I did and do it well. Becoming a CPA was a big deal to me. First of all, graduating college was a big deal. Becoming a CPA was a big deal. Becoming a partner was a big deal. And getting sworn in at HUD, I just want to keep improving myself and and keep doing. And I don't like to wake up in the morning and not have something that I want to be doing. And that's really what motivates. It's just that simple. I don't have any hidden agenda other than to do good work and do it the best I can and do meaningful work. And, being an audit partner and, you're protecting, we weren't saving lives, but we were saving livelihoods. I mean, that's very, very important. And at HUD, you're working for the underprivileged, which was very, very important. So just, again, that's where the mission and the passion comes in for me. And I had a skill that made me a pretty good auditor. And so I went with it and took those skills, not sure what they would, if I was going to succeed at HUD, but thought I'd give it a shot, and worked out well. So again, I know my skills and I know how to use them in the environment, but that's what motivates me. It's no more magic than just, I'm going to probably be doing something till I'm done.
I hope you don't mind me jumping in. Just listening to you and knowing your story, there's another word that is ambition. So it's a quiet ambition, but I suspect part of being fulfilled in the day-to-day during the course of your career was feeling that you're just moving forward each step of the way, one step at a time. And that fulfills, that's what the passion comes from, feeling like you're moving forward. Because look how, even though there was no grand design, maybe,
Right.
at each step you felt
Yes, exactly.
fulfilled.
Progress was being made, and
Progress was being made.
every year was built on the prior year, and you built on the career. And I'm doing the not-for-profit thing now. I don't know where that's going to lead me, if anywhere. I'm keeping my house in DC. If I have an opportunity to go back in the administration and do something different, I will. If that doesn't, I'll have to figure out.
Motivation is still there.
Yeah, so
Passion.
motivation. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what you're saying.
And I would also say, I'm very fortunate that I have a wife that's extraordinarily supportive. And we were married at a young age. Our son was born in our first year of marriage. We were married just for 12 months, and I was making a very small amount at the time, starting with EY, and she was making about the same. She wanted to, it was important for her to stay home and raise our son. And my career was important to me. She understood that. So we lived in an apartment about the size of this table that we couldn't afford. And we made it work. But she did put no barriers on my career. So, whoever your life partner is, make sure it's somebody that's supporting your career, what your ambitions are, because that was very important to me. Yeah.
Please, why don't you use the mic? Happy anniversary, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. 39 years.
Hi, my name is Lisette Artiga. Oh, yeah. So I believe we live in a world where we compare ourselves all the time, and we always try to live a fast-paced life, and we always want to make it to the top so quickly. As an advice, as someone who's been on the other side, what would you have told your younger self and then us who are starting our careers in the business world?
Yeah. It's interesting. Raising a child is hard work, and what you tell your child may be different than it's hard to not project your motivation on your children and then have them think differently than you. My son wanted nothing to do with public accounting because he saw how hard I worked at it. And he had an offer with EY to come, and he would be a partner today if he wanted to be. It wasn't his lifestyle that he wanted. So everyone is different in how they think about what their life is and how they define success. And he's doing very well at a bank that he's working at. But I think if whatever your motivation is, whatever drives you, just follow that. That's everyone's going to be different in that regard, and there's no right or wrong answer to it. It's whatever keeps you motivated and keeps you happy.
Thank you.
I don't know if that answers your question. Is that okay?
Thank you so much. You've had a long day with us. You have one more, because I know you have a class to go to as well.
Yeah.
Right? We have a class too. Please. We have another class.
Yeah.
So let's continue, and then we'll break. Please.
Do you have any siblings?
I do have a sibling. I have a brother and a sister. Yep.
So would you say you're Like what position? Are you the oldest, the youngest?
I'm in the middle. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in the middle. Yep. And we all took different paths. Yeah, in life. Yeah.
Wondering if you are you want to hire an intern in your department, which capability of this intern you will think is the most important?
Which what is the most important?
Capability of the intern.
Capability. It's first of all, having good grades is helpful. Having a good, well-written resume is helpful. Presenting yourself well is helpful. Having from there, everybody's, whatever your skill is, make sure it shines and make sure it's what they're looking for in that position, and make sure there's a match to it. Is how I would think of that. But you're getting a great education here. You have good grades. And you're networking around to create. It's hard to make sure you come across as a way people are going to want to work with you. People skills are very important today, and I don't know, Michelle, I don't know if they were as important back in 1981 when we started, but you were just a grinder at that point, especially in the big 8 firms. But today it's different. It's people skills are extraordinarily, it's probably one of the most important. And high level intelligence will get you so far. The people skills will get you to where you need to be or want to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. I understand now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.